Okay, so we're here in a guild war against Jotun, and we're going to be doing another scout form, this time on Tower 8. And there's not really any specific mechanic we're going to be kind of highlighting or going over, but the way they place their units is kind of unique and presents a few issues. So, right off the bat, we can see they have two taunts, Glacia and Granhildr. Two easy ways to stop Glacia taunt is use Seto front, so she suicides, or use Grace front to block her taunt. Now I can't use Seto front because also in the front lane is Elianir, and she can hit potentially 9 instances of damage to my Seto, which will end up killing him. So Seto's not an option for Glacia, and then mid lane Gran prevents me from using Seto to have Eden suicide on, because Gran, when she hits Seto, will deal 3 instances of damage when she's buffed by Refi. And that just adds up a lot of damage with him taking damage from Seto, Lucius, Eden, her. It would be too much. So I have to find a different way to deal with these two taunts. If you have a plus 10 Valze, the easiest thing to do would be a Veronia into a plus 10 Valze. And that will kill Gran, and that will put a buff ban on Glacia, and that solves all your problems right there. I don't have a plus 10 Valze, so I'm actually going to use a Veronia Asmode to trade with them. Now, I have to get through Eden first, so I'm actually going to be using Cerubia Ludmilla to kill Eden. Now, the reason why this works, and why I don't need to kill taunts first to use Ludmilla, is Ludmilla has a permanent taunt ignore skill, which is what we need. However, she hits back tile. So I need to use Cerubia, which changes the target to the front, in pair with Ludmilla to make Ludmilla hit the front, which will kill Eden. Now, if Eden had any agility, or if he was getting buffed by Michaela, this wouldn't necessarily work, because I would need to crit. In this case, he has low HP, only 4,900, and my Ludmilla does not need to crit to kill him. So I buff up my Ludmilla to the front, kill Eden, and then that leaves my Veronia free to buff Asmode, and then Asmode moves and kills Gran and Glacia. So Glacia looks like she has a lot of defense, but Asmode is going to reduce 45% of that at plus 10, so she basically has no defense at all, and then Gran only has 20% defense. Now, the reason why I'm having to use Veronia on Asmode and not some other support like Refi is that I need unremovable buffs. So Asmode has a skill that pillages and copies buffs, removes them off the target, and then copies them to himself. Well, Gran reflects everything that touches her. So if I use a removable type buff, like let's say Refi or Isabel or something like that, Asmode is going to hit Gran, she's going to reflect his copy and pillage back to him, and take those buffs off of Asmode, which we don't want. So in this case, we're using Veronia because her buffs specifically state can't be removed with removal skill type. So we're good to go. Also, bonus, once Asmode goes, he will trade with them and die, which leaves round 2, my Veronia will buff Angelica, which will be great because I'll need Angelica to kill Valtor. So, basically, the kills are going to go, I'm going to move Velfern, Cerubia, Lud, that will kill the Eden. Then, I will have my Levia, Veronia, and Asmode move. Asmode will trade with Gran and Glacia, removing all taunts. Then, I'll have my unbuffed Angelica, who will kill Elianir. And then I have my Seto, which will kill Refi. And then Lucius is just taking up a space turn at the end. So now that kills everyone mid and bot lane. Round 2, Levia is poised to hit my Lucius and suicide on Seto. And then round 2, since Asmode is dead, my Veronia will be able to buff up Angelica to kill Valtor. Another reason why we need Veronia, because her buffs are unremovable, is because Valtor has a nullifier counter. So when anything touches him, he's going to nullify buffs that can be removed. Thankfully, Veronia's cannot. And then round 2, my Velfern will kill Seto due to his grave stacking skill, which deals 1 instance of damage per graves, as well as 2 base damage. So for Velfern, it's 1. For dead, I'm counting dead units now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I count my Asmode. So 6 graves, and then I count the 2 bonus from Velfern, so that's up to 8. Seto is receiving 1 damage from hitting my Seto, and then my Asmode also deals 1 damage to Seto. So that's 10 total. We're totally good to go, and we kill Seto as soon as Asmode moves. And then that just leaves Valtor and Lucius, which we just discussed. Veronia will buff up Angelica, kill Valtor, and then by that point, I will just slowly start chipping away at Lucius until he dies. So in terms of how I'm tanking the enemy team, I use my Lucius to tank their Lucius. I have my Angelica back to tank the Valtor. I have my Lucius and Seto to tank the Levia, and I have my Seto to tank their Seto. Mid lane, I have Lucius to tank Eden and Gran, and then bot lane, I have Levia to tank Elianir and Glacia. So I'm going to double check their runes, make sure there's nothing funny. +3 Gran is pretty easy to deal with. And mine, Lucius, Seto, Lude, Asmode, Rubia, Velfern, Veronia, and Levia. Yeah, so everything looks great. Let's hit it and see what happens. Alright, so they do a standard buff chain into Glacia. So we buff up, kill the Eden. We buff up Asmode, trade with those 2, kill Elianir, and then we kill Refi. This is all great. Round 2, Levia suicides. Oh. I should have known that. Yeah, Seto skipped, so he did not hit, he hit Valtor instead of Seto. So in this case, we're actually gonna be fine because we have enough contingencies, but that's a pretty big miss on my part, not seeing that Velfern wouldn't be skipped yet. Oh, now I lose Angelica. Oh good, Seto kills him. Great, so we did clean it up, 40 turns. But yeah, that was actually a pretty big mistake on my part. Velfern is skipped, and I hadn't killed Valtor yet. So it would have made more sense for me to chain my setup so that Angelica moved before Velfern, then Velfern moves, and then Levia moves. But it ended up working out anyway because we kept our deaths to a minimum. And yeah, there you go.